Hello friends and welcome to the channel. My name is Brian Abear and this is where I share my insights, and today I'm talking about living irresponsibly, which I believe to be the epitome of spiritual revelation. That you may think you have responsibilities, but I think we have not a single responsibility, which makes us irresponsible creatures, slap happy and off the hook. If you're interested in learning more, stick around. To have a sense of responsibility, one must carry around a feeling of obligation. This sensation that I have to, and that my life is a burden to me, and somehow it costs me to extract the benefit. And I lived this way for a long time. I lived this way with a strong sense of responsibility, meaning that everything I was doing was so damned important. I had to provide for myself. I had to solidify my future. I had to go after everything that I desired. And I wasn't extracting the free benefit of existence. It felt to me that I had to work for it, and that I had to climb out of a deficit somehow. Until it just one day seemed to dawn on me that I had no responsibility whatsoever, and that I was indeed irresponsible. And irresponsible, some words for irresponsible, I have written them down here, let me look. Some words for irresponsible are giddy, slap happy, harebrained, heedless, and misguided. And as I sort of reflect on myself, this is how I feel. At a fundamental level, I feel slap happy, harebrained, heedless, and misguided. And when you carry around a sensation of being responsible, you have a strong sense of obligation, like daddy is watching, expecting, and hovering. Synonyms of responsible people include in charge of, in control of, accountable, supervised by, and answerable. So how can I have both of these sensations at once being equal? How can it seem as though I'm the captain and the passenger, the leader and the follower, with none of those polarities having more strength than the other? This is what spiritual revelation is that you see the paradox you're sort of stuck in here. That you are indeed the creator of the world, the almighty, immortal, invisible, ancient of days, and you are also the lowly human. The way that most of us think of this is God did all the good things, and the humans have done all the bad things. But everything is paradoxical like that. God doing the good things and the humans doing the bad things. That is one way of describing this dual relationship. Ultimately, however, spiritual revelation is in realizing that there is a superficial conception to not only our origins, but to the origins of self. Let me explain. Your parents conceived you, right? In the same way that you conceived your ego by imagining yourself to be very different than the cause and effect that the universe is. However, we mustn't think that we've created our egos either. The ego arises in the individual. That sharp and accentuated feeling of the separate self also arises in the individual. And so does spiritual revelation, this arising of this understanding that cause and effect are equal. The good things and the bad things are equal. And that the universe is vibrating, just humma, 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 humma. And it's good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Me, you, me, you, me, you, me, you. God, man, God, man, God, man, God, man, God, man. And it's just this little vibrancy, this seeming polarity, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. And this beating, this vibrancy is creating this multiplicity. How? I'm not sure, but we can see it all over nature. Take a string, for example, and if you pluck it, it goes back and forth. Yada, 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 yada. And it looks like there's a bunch of strings. But if you could slow down enough, you'll see it's just a wave, like a snake that seems to have two sides. So multiplicity, or diversification, or differences, are created by vibrancy, a vibration, a pulse of on and off. And you just get caught in thinking that there is only form, or on, never understanding the off stroke, the in and the out, the dark and the light. And somehow in that vibrancy, that vibrating of just back and forth, and it's interesting, I'm calling it a vibrancy, because you understand it now. Spiritual revelation is like, some people are, their pendulum in this vibrancy is going way back and forth, like whoosh, and then whoosh. And then I think spiritual revelation is simply just the pendulum slowing down enough for you to see that the singularity is vibrating to create multiplicity. And another way to look at it, I always think of it like a telescope that's out of focus. If you unfocus the telescope, it gets blurry and it looks like you got a bunch of stuff. But then when you turn in the lens, it becomes very clear what you're looking at. But that's a very limited way of seeing this. It's that the universe depends on this paradox. There is no universe without an observer. So it appears as though there is a singularity looking at a diversity. But the diversity and the singularity depend on each other, and they're equal. Therefore, you can't conclude that the universe has a captain without a follower, or an inside without an outside, or an on without an off, or a good without a bad, or a human without a divine, right? That's why we get all of these sort of black and white ways of looking at the world, because people haven't caught on to the vibration. We don't understand that just that existence is vibrant. Just being alive has this humma, humma, humma. It has a pulse to it, which in and of itself is exuberant. It's just giddy to be alive. Mr. Rogers taught us that. If you watch Mr. Rogers, it's such a good feeling to know you're alive. And that's the key. Being alive is this vibrancy, but knowing you're alive is if it's a higher level of vibrancy. Excuse me. In so much that you sort of understand the paradox. You understand that you didn't do it. You didn't conceive of your ego. You didn't conceive of your form, and you can't blame your parents. You know what, friends? Most of this is simply about going far enough back into the source, deeply being still, exploring sort of the depth under the surface to get that aha moment that cause and effect are the same. Cause and effect are the captain, are two ends of the captain, are two ends of the follower, whatever you want to say. And that nature is a product of itself. And there is no one to blame, no one to praise, no one to hold accountable to, no one to answer to. So what's left once you encounter this profound epiphany is you are left with a fragment of your individuality. It still hangs on a little bit because you still have a life to live. And you know that you are harebrained. Like the individual has just no individual will, no individual thought, no individuality whatsoever. So you can give freely of yourself. You can use your time frivolously. You can be irresponsible, heedless. Imagine if you knew you had 3 days to live, you'd be as heedless and irresponsible as you possibly could. Well, how do you know you don't have 3 days to live? You get to this point where you can live like there is no tomorrow. And we are living like we have all these tomorrows, and no one's ever tasted, touched, seen, smelled, held tomorrow. In much the same way as no one has ever seen the captain, touched the captain, spoken to the captain. Because most of us think of the captain of the universe as a cardboard cutout of ourselves. And it's not. That's a graven image. This gets very, very complicated. If there's a difference between self and other, one of them is false. But the false image and the true image have the same source. So does spiritual revelation. Spiritual revelation has the same source. It just kind of comes to you. Like, holy shit. This thing I sense as separation is unification. This thing that seems like me and other, I'm kind of stuck with it. But I know I'm the same on either ends of that truth. I'm the same. So when you realize that, you're slap happy. You're just absolutely free because you don't have any more responsibilities. You don't have to hold up the world because the world is also dependent on you. Like for me to perceive this outside world, there has to be an illusion of a perceiver. And somehow that vibration is causing the appearance of multiplicity. And deep down inside, I'm none of that. It's weird. I'm just completely unidentifiable. And even further accentuates and enhances this connectivity that you learn about, which it just feels like you're off the hook. I remember when I was very young, I had a religion teacher who taught us about evolution, believe it or not, and tried to tie together the story of creation with a scientific mind. And I thought that was really interesting. And I tried to explain that to, I was maybe in this 9th grade or something. I remember that just, wow, to think intellectually and look at the book of Genesis and put those two seeming oppositions together in some way. My evangelical family said, talking about evolution as a possible path to understanding creation, that was the gravest sin I could have committed. And I remember my cousin Doug saying, "You're going to have to step up to the mic, buddy." Because of the way I was explaining the universe. However you explain the universe, you're just explaining yourself. My insights are about the universe. This is how I see myself. Unified now. And I understand the vibrating string. I understand the unfocused lens. This is my explanation. I'm irresponsible, slap happy, off the hook, a vibrancy of energy that has no responsibility at all. I didn't choose this life. I didn't choose this ethnicity. I didn't choose this period of time to live in. But at this moment, everything depends on everything. I'm everything at this moment. This so-called outside world and the inside world, that all comes together. It'll come together in you. And one day you're just going to be like, wow, I don't have any responsibilities. And irresponsible people piss off egos that insist that life is obligation. It's not. Cause and effect are one, and one is no more important than the other. Cost, benefit are one, and no more is one more important than the other. The paradox is balanced. The duality is equal. The polarities come together. And the vibration is a shimmer once you understand. If your pendulum is way out, and you don't understand where I am, you might want to get still for a minute. Sit quietly. Contemplate. You'll see what I'm talking about. If you stop shuffling so far back and forth in this duality, you have to experience for yourself. I don't have a secret. You're living that way now. Always have been. My name is Ryan Hebert. If you enjoyed these insights about irresponsibility, please check out my blog. It's called mymorningmotivator.com, and we'll see you guys next time. I appreciate you watching.